Chapter 21. Argument. You are listening at novel full.audio. Seeing that Xia Song seemed to be about to scold Xia Jin, old Mrs. Xia hurriedly explained on Xia Jin's behalf, Jin has strict regulations at his school. He has been tired all week, so we let him rest a bit on Saturdays. Hearing old Mrs. Xia's words, Xia Xian's mouth twitched, and she had to suppress her sneer for a long time. Xia Xian remembered very clearly that when old Mrs. Xia lived with them, she would scold Xia Xian for being lazy when she woke up after 9 in the morning and even told Gu Fan not to leave breakfast for her. Xia Song was already used to his mother's doting on her grandson. He sighed inwardly and did not say much. He asked again, which high school did Jean go to? Is it New Moon High School or North Top High School? Old Mrs. Xia shook her head and said, neither. It's Anton International High School. The tuition is quite expensive. 30,000 yuan per semester. Your brother said it would cost at least 200,000 yuan for 3 years. Xia Song's eyes widened in shock and asked, 30,000 yuan per semester. Xia Bai, what were you thinking? Is it necessary to send a child to such an expensive high school? Hearing Xia Song's words with a hint of blame, Xia Bai, who was eating grapes, frowned unhappily. Xia Bai said, brother, what do you mean? Isn't Jean worthy of going to a good high school? Besides, it's not your money, so what's the worry? Where did you get so much money? You and Ma Lin can save up at most 60,000 yuan in a year if you don't eat or drink. You're spending it all on tuition. Are you going to starve yourselves? Listen to me, there's still time to transfer now. Look at Xian, she's attending an ordinary high school, but she can still get into a prestigious university. Xia Song's tone was heavy and filled with concern for Xia Bai. However, to Xia Bai's ears, Xia Song's words sounded like a show off, as if Xia Jin could not compare to Xia Xian at all. Xia Bai's gaze turned cold and said, brother, I know you all think Jin's academic performance is not good, but boys naturally develop later. Jin has potential, and this school has strong faculty. It's an investment in Jin's education. If you don't understand, don't speak nonsense. Have you ever thought about Xia Bing? She's still retaking the university entrance exams in our hometown. You're spending 30,000 yuan to send Jean to an international high school. Why don't you think about renting a better house for Bing in our hometown, so she can study well? Xia Song asked with some anger. Xia Bing was Xia Bai's eldest daughter. When Xia Bing was attending school, Xia Bai had not bought a house in the city yet, so Xia Bing had to return to their hometown to study. She did not attend a good high school, and the dormitory conditions were extremely poor, with 12 people sharing one room. When Xia Jin started school, Xia Bai borrowed money from relatives and took out a bank loan to finally buy a house in the school district, so Xia Jin could study in the city. Isn't it good for Xia Bing to live in the dormitory? Besides, Xia Bing's grades are so poor, even with retaking the exams, can she compare to Jin? Jean is aiming for a top .3 university. This is my family's affair. You don't need to interfere, said Xia Bai. He was extremely annoyed and impatient in his tone. Xia Bai, I didn't even bring up the compensation money. I just thought your family was in a difficult situation, but you're wasting money like this. You're willing to spend 200,000 yuan to send Jean to an elite international school, but you're not willing to spend a little money on your daughter. Your favoritism is too much. Xia Song finally could not bear it anymore and shouted loudly. Xia Song treated Xia Xian like a precious gem, and seeing how Xia Bing was neglected by her parents made him feel both heartbroken and angry. Compensation money again. I knew you didn't come here today to visit Mom. You just want to get a bigger share of the compensation money, right? Xia Bai shouted as he slammed the table and stared at Xia Song with red eyes. Let me tell you, I have the property ownership certificate now. If you provoke me again, I won't let you get a single cent. Old Mrs. Xia was completely taken aback by her two sons quarreling so fiercely. She looked panicked and said, "Stop fighting, both of you. Xia Song, that's enough. Your younger brother did not spend the money recklessly. Besides, don't you want Jean to get into a good university?" "Mom, that's not what I meant." Xia Song was both angry and anxious. "It's just that the money was completely unnecessary, and Xia Bai has money but neglects Xia Bing. Can that be justified?" Xia Xian sat on the sofa, watching the argument with cold eyes. In her past life, she had heard such arguments many times. Xia Xian felt sad that she was born into a family that favored boys over girls. Her mother, Gu Fan, had been looked down upon, criticized, and mocked by old Mrs. Xia for not being able to give birth to a son for more than a decade. But Xia Xian also felt fortunate. Her parents loved her very much, and her father treated her like a treasure. Unfortunately, Xia Bing did not have such good luck. Chapter 22. Lament. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What are you all arguing about? Lunch is almost ready, come and help serve the dishes. The kitchen door opened, and Xia Xian's aunt, Ma Lin, shouted loudly. The table was filled with delicious food, but there was no joy or laughter around the dining table. Xia Song, Xia Bai, and Xia Xian's grandma had unpleasant expressions. Ma Lin forced a smile and patted Xia Jin's arm. She said, "Jean, later on, ask Xian for study tips. She is diligent and hardworking in high school. Although you are smart, you shouldn't be arrogant. You need to be down to earth, understand?" Ma Lin's words seemed harmless, but she was actually mocking Xia Xian's success in getting into a good university solely due to her diligence. She believed that her son was smarter than Xia Xian but had poor grades in the past because he did not study properly. Xia Xian suppressed the urge to roll her eyes. Xia Jin glanced at Xia Xian, and his gaze seemed to look down on her. He said, "No need." Gu Fan's face darkened, and her grip on the chopsticks tightened. Xia Xian placed her hand on Gu Fan's leg, gently patting it with a calm smile, indicating that she did not care about her aunt's mockery. The meal was long and oppressive. In the afternoon, Xia Bai and Ma Lin took old Mrs. Xia to the hospital for a follow-up visit, while Gu Fan went to the market to buy groceries. She would have to prepare dinner alone that evening. Xia Xian accompanied Gu Fan to the market, and Lael, released from the garage, followed them. As Gu Fan picked vegetables, she sighed. "Xian, don't pay attention to your aunt. She just wants to save face. I don't think Jean will be able to get into a good university at all. I'm not cursing him, it's just a feeling I have." Xia Xian could not help but cover her mouth and smile. She said, "Mom, I believe in your sixth sense." Gu Fan was not wrong. In her past life, Xia Jin's final university entrance exam results were not impressive. He only scored 20 points above the undergraduate admission line. Let alone top-tier universities, even entering a better undergraduate school was difficult. In this life, there probably would not be any unexpected changes. Poor Xia Bing. Putting aside everything else, when she finds out that her parents spent 200,000 yuan to send her brother to high school while leaving her alone in the hometown for years without care, how sad do you think she would be, said Gu Fan. She did not like Xia Bai, Ma Lin, and Xia Jin, but she genuinely felt sorry for Xia Bing. Since Xia Bai and Ma Lin did not pay much attention to Xia Bing, during Xia Bing's summer breaks from elementary and middle school, she often stayed at Xia Xian's house. She had a good relationship with Xia Xian, and Gu Fan often took the two girls out to buy new clothes. Most of Xia Bing's childhood clothes were bought by Gu Fan. Lost in her thoughts, Gu Fan finished shopping and returned to Xia Bai's house, preparing a sumptuous dinner. After dinner, some matters finally had to be discussed openly. Probably because he had obtained the property ownership certificate from old Mrs. Xia Bai spoke with confidence, this is what I'm thinking. Both of my children had not gotten into university yet, and the house loan hasn't been fully paid off. After stating his difficulties, Xia Bai directly requested 70% of the compensation money. As for the newly arranged house provided by the government, it would be left for old Mrs. Xia, and the remaining 30% of the compensation money would go to Xia Song's family. Xia Xian raised an eyebrow and thought, Uncle Bai's plan was quite cunning. He intended to put Grandma in the newly arranged house, claiming that it had the potential to appreciate in value. By doing so, he and Mao Lin could use the excuse of being busy and leave Mom and Dad to take care of Grandma. Did he think he could deceive Grandma with the property ownership certificate and then neglect her? No way. Before Xia Song could express his opinion, Xia Xian immediately spoke up, Grandma is old. It's not suitable for her to live alone in the newly arranged house. In my opinion, we might as well sell the arranged house and let Grandma live with you, Uncle Bai. Grandma loves Jean, and she would definitely like to see her grandson more often, right? Xia Xian's tone was gentle, and every word touched old Mrs. Xia's heart. Old Mrs. Xia looked toward Xia Jin's bedroom with a loving expression. She said, I also suggested selling the arranged house, but your uncle said it could appreciate in value, so he insisted on keeping it. Hearing that, Gu Fan could not help but roll her eyes. She thought, the house provided by the government was only meant for living. How could it appreciate in value? Xia Bai's nonsense might fool mother, but it wouldn't work on me. Xia Song opened his mouth, seeming to want to say something, but Xia Xian quickly spoke before him, how about giving us the newly arranged house? I just graduated and I happen to want to buy a small apartment. We won't take any of the compensation money, and you can keep it all. Upon hearing that, Gu Fan was greatly surprised, and even Xia Song was taken aback. Xia Bai was momentarily stunned, but soon a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes. He thought, that was a steal. The compensation money that Xia Song would receive was quite substantial. It was worth more than that small rundown house. Chapter 23. A treat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Initially, Xia Bai wanted to appear reluctant, but fearing that Xia Xian might change her mind, he immediately said, well, you said it. Brother, Gu Fan, Xian wants the newly arranged house. Do you have any objections? Gu Fan had intended to object, but when Xia Xian gave her a look, Gu Fan hesitated and did not say anything. Naturally, Xia Song had no objections. He did not have as many schemes as Xia Bai and had no idea about the market value of the newly arranged house. Seeing that Xia Xian wanted it and considering his love for his daughter, he naturally agreed. After discussing the allocation of the compensation money, Xia Bai and Xia Song both let out a sigh of relief. That night, Xia Bai and Ma Lin took out the property ownership certificate in their bedroom. Ma Lin sighed, I never expected that they would only want an arranged house. But this means that mother will have to live in our house. Ma Lin did not actually want old Mrs. Xia to live with them, but seeing that her husband wanted to get his hands on Xia Song's compensation money, she did not say much. What's the big deal? It's just feeding one more person. Song gave us all the compensation money. We've taken a huge advantage, Xia Bai said with great satisfaction. In the guest room of Xia Bai's house, Gu Fan and Xia Xian lay on the same bed, while Xia Song slept on the sofa in the living room. Xian, why do you want that arranged house? Its location isn't good at all, and there aren't even a few decent companies nearby. You're not really planning to move there, are you? Gu Fan could not help but ask. Of course not, Xia Xian said. She looked at the wrinkles at the corners of Gu Fan's eyes, sighed, and held Gu Fan's hand as she whispered, Mom, if Grandma moves into that arranged house, you would still be the one taking care of her. Uncle Bai and Auntie Lin won't bother. Only if grandma lives in their house will they have to bear the responsibility of supporting her. Once the procedures for transferring ownership of the arranged house were completed, Xia Xian would immediately sell it to prevent Xia Bai from neglecting old Mrs. Xia by using the excuse that Xia Xian's family had two houses and sending grandma over to their place. Gu Fan did not expect that Xia Xian was considering her in all of this. Gu Fan said, "Xian, taking care of the elderly is something we should do. I don't think it's too difficult. Mom, I know you have filial piety, but when grandma lived in our house, not only did you not have any rest time, but grandma also criticized and complained about you every day. Your relationship with dad was affected because of that. You have taken care of grandma for so many years and fulfilled your responsibility. Now that Uncle Bai and Auntie Lin have taken all the compensation money, if they still don't support grandma, all the relatives around them will look down on them." Xia Xian further explained. Xia Xian had already planned that after the compensation money was distributed, she would publicize this matter and let all the relatives know that Xia Bai and Ma Lin had taken all the compensation money. In this way, it would be impossible for Xia Song and Ma Lin not to support old Mrs. Xia properly unless they did not care about their reputation. As long as old Mrs. Xia did not live in Xia Xian's house, Gu Fan would be much more relaxed. She would not be scolded and humiliated by old Mrs. Xia all day long, and her relationship with Xia Song would not be affected. Xia Xian felt that her mother's happiness was more important than the compensation money. After spending the night at Xia Bai's house, the next day, after Xia Xian returned home, she received an invitation from Zhao Nan. To celebrate Xia Xian finding a job, Zhao Nan wanted to treat Xia Xian to a meal. The restaurant was a popular one near Xia Xian's house, and when Xia Xian arrived, she saw many people waiting in line outside. Xin. Upon seeing Xia Xian, Zhao Nan rushed over and gave her a bear hug. "I've missed you so much. Ever since you started working at the zoo, we haven't been able to go out for meals and shopping often." Xia Xian returned the hug, and when she looked up, she saw Zhao Nan's boyfriend, Zhang Liang, smiling at her. "Long time no see, Xia Xian." Zhang Liang's tone had a hint of deeper meaning as if implying that they hadn't met often since graduating from university. Xia Xian's smile stiffened for a moment, but she simply nodded lightly and did not continue to pay attention to Zhang Liang's implications. "Let's go in." This restaurant was opened by Zhang Liang's uncle. "Order whatever you want today." Zhao Nan linked her arm with Xia Xian's, and the two of them entered the restaurant. Watching Xia Xian's back, Zhang Liang's gaze turned deep and gloomy. After the waiter brought the ordered dishes, Zhao Nan opened 2 bottles of fruit wine, one plum-flavored and one peach-flavored. Xian, Zhang Liang says that the fruit wine at this restaurant is really good. "Let's give it a try," Zhao Nan said excitedly. Upon hearing that it was recommended by Zhang Liang, Xia Xian instantly lost interest in the fruit wine. However, seeing Zhao Nan's excited expression, she did not know how to refuse for a moment. Chapter 24. You're crazy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 24. You're crazy. Seeing that Xia Xian seemed to be contemplating something, Zhao Nan quickly said, "It's fine even if we get drunk. Zhang Liang can take you home." Xia Xian had no intention of drinking now. She worried that both she and Zhao Nan got drunk and Zhang Liang had ulterior motives. Xia Xian had realized in university how low Zhang Liang's moral bottom line was. Xia Xian took the cup handed to her by Zhao Nan and took a sip, saying, "It's alright, but I don't really like these 2 flavors." With that, Xia Xian put down the cup, seemingly indicating that she did not want to continue drinking. "Ha! You don't like it? Do you want to try other flavors?" Zhao Nan felt a bit guilty. "Ah, I didn't ask you in advance about your preferred flavor. It's all my fault." Xia Xian shook her head with a smile. She said, "It's alright, let's focus on the food. If I go back after drinking too much, my mom will scold me. The three of them started eating. Xia Xian did not drink, and Zhang Liang could not drink either because he would be driving. Therefore, Zhao Nan ended up drinking most of the 2 bottles of fruit wine. Soon, her cheeks started to flush, and her eyes became unfocused. Xia Xian took away the wine glass from Zhao Nan's table and said, "Stop drinking. If you drink more, you'll get drunk." "I'm not drunk. My alcohol tolerance is great now," Zhao Nan said as she tried to grab the wine glass but suddenly leaned against Xia Xian's shoulder, hugging her like a koala. Xia Xian sighed helplessly. She remembered that Zhao Nan used to not drink alcohol and thought that Zhao Nan must have started drinking after dating Zhang Liang. Seeing that Zhao Nan was drunk, Zhang Liang walked over, pulled Zhao Nan up, and placed her on the sofa opposite their dining table. Then, he casually sat in Zhao Nan's original seat, which happened to be next to Xia Xian. Xia Xian started to tense up, and she immediately moved a little to the side. Zhang Liang did not seem to notice Xia Xian's movement and casually explained, "Nan doesn't have a good alcohol tolerance." "Who says?" A hand was raised under the table across from them, "I can still drink." Zhang Liang ignored the tipsy Zhao Nan, turned his head to look at Xia Xian, and said, "I heard you started working at the zoo and became an internet celebrity. Not bad. Have you considered becoming a video blogger? It's a lucrative profession." Suppressing her annoyance, Xia Xian casually replied, "I just want to work at the zoo. I haven't been to the capital zoo yet. Once I'm done with this project, I'll buy a ticket to the zoo to see you." Zhang Liang stared straight into Xia Xian's eyes. Here it comes again. Xia Xian thought. She felt like she was back in university when Zhang Liang relentlessly pursued her like this. Because Xia Xian was not sure if Zhao Nan was conscious at the moment, an increasingly angry Xia Xian had to lower her voice and say, "Zhang Liang, Nan is a good girl. I hope you can cherish her." Hearing Xia Xian's words, Zhang Liang finally could not contain his inner emotions. His eyes filled with unwillingness and anger. He said, "Xia Xian, don't you understand yet? My heart has always been only for you. I don't like anyone else. Why won't you give me a chance? What about your relationship with Nan? Are you deceiving her feelings?" Xia Xian asked. She was extremely angry and she could not understand what was going on in Zhang Liang's mind. "Zhao Nan liked me from the beginning. I'm just giving her a chance to fulfill her dream," said Zhang Liang as his anger slowly subsided. He looked at Zhao Nan, who was lying on the sofa across from them, with a cold smile and said, "Besides, don't you really know why I got together with Zhao Nan? If it weren't for her, would I have a chance to sit here and have a meal with you? Zhang Liang, you're really crazy." Xia Xian had nothing more to say. Her gaze became completely cold and merciless. "I won't like you. I didn't like you before, and I won't in the future. You'd better give up early." The atmosphere between the two became tense. The seemingly drunk Zhao Nan on the opposite side seemed to have awakened, opening her eyes drowsily and looking at her best friend and her boyfriend. She asked, "What are you guys talking about? Are you bad-mouthing me?" Zhang Liang's emotions instantly converged upon hearing Zhao Nan's words, and he revealed a loving smile. He said, "You guess." Xia Xian looked at Zhang Liang's smile and felt chills run down her spine, filled with fear. She could not continue eating this meal. Xia Xian picked up her bag without even looking at Zhang Liang and said, "You take Zhao Nan home." Zhang Liang watched Xia Xian leave without turning back, tightly clenching the bamboo chopsticks in his hand, his gaze cold. Crack! The bamboo chopsticks suddenly broke. Xia Xian returned home, still thinking about Zhao Nan and Zhang Liang. She pondered, what should I do in this situation? Should I tell Nan that Zhang Liang had been deceiving her? Chapter 25. Comfort. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Would Nan believe me? It was evident that Nan was completely immersed in the appearance of a woman in love and was probably considering marriage with Zhang Liang. Xia Xian pondered. Beep. Beep. Xia Xian's phone rang, indicating a friend request from an unknown person. Without much thought, Xia Xian could already guess that it was from Zhang Liang. She could not understand what Zhang Liang wanted this time. During their university days, Zhang Liang relentlessly pursued Xia Xian, so she deleted him as a friend and blocked all his accounts and phone numbers. She never expected that this man would still appear in her life after graduation. He was like a lingering ghost. Xia Xian took a deep breath and accepted the friend request. Suppressing her anger, she texted, "What do you want?" After a few seconds of silence, Zhang Liang's message came through, "You know what I want." Xia Xian was speechless. She replied, "Well, forget about it." Once again, Xia Xian deleted and blocked Zhang Liang's account. Back in Xia Xian's bedroom, Lael, who was drinking water, immediately stopped and walked toward Xia Xian, wagging its tail. Its eyes looked at Xia Xian with confusion, as if asking her what was wrong. Although dogs could not speak and did not possess human-level intelligence, they were actually very smart and could sense changes in their owner's emotions. Xia Xian patted Lael's head and forced a smile. She said, "It's nothing, just encountered a very annoying person. Forget about Zhang Liang for now. I should focus on my work." Xia Xian thought. As for Zhao Nan, Xia Xian could try to find an opportunity to hint at the issues with Zhang Liang and hopefully make Zhao Nan realize it. Back at the zoo, Xia Xian had been keeping an eye on Bao's condition. After several days of psychological treatment, Bao's condition stabilized, but it still did not want to go out into the open area. Lili advised Xia Xian to pay more attention to Bao when she was not busy. On this day, after feeding Pipin Dodo, Xia Xian went to the panda house to see Bao. She found Bao still huddled in a corner by itself. Xia Xian squatted down, slowly approaching Bao, and used the beast language system to communicate with it. "Bao, do you remember me?" Bao froze. For a moment, it thought it had misheard. How could this human communicate with me? Then Bao looked up with his round head, his eyes filled with confusion. Xia Xian smiled and said, "Bao, don't be afraid. Nobody will splash water on you anymore. The weather is nice today. Would you like to go outside and bask in the sun?" Upon hearing Xia Xian's words, Bao drew his two front paws closer to the corner, clearly refusing. Xia Xian did not give up, instead, she continued to approach Bao. With the passive effect of the beast language system, Bao did not resist her approach much, but it still did not want to go out into the sun with her. "Bao, the person who hurt you is just a few bad people. But many people in this world love you. You are not an unloved panda. Many uncles and aunties care about you." Xia Xian explained to Bao using language that pandas could understand. Bao raised its head in confusion. After a long time, it let out a weak voice in response to Xia Xian, "Nobody likes me." Xia Xian felt heartbroken, but seeing that Bao was willing to communicate with her, she felt a bit relieved. She continued, "How can that be? Look at this." Xia Xian turned on her phone and scrolled to a video posted by a blogger. She clicked on the video, and Bao's figure appeared in it. Before Bao's incident, it did not have much popularity, but there were still people who loved him. Every time they visited the zoo, they would specifically find angles to film Bao and document his growth from a cub. Bao stared blankly at the video, seemingly unable to believe it. After the video ended, Xia Xian smiled and said, "See, there have always been people who like you. So, do you want to go out and see? Perhaps those who like you are waiting for you outside." Bao hesitated for a long time, nervously rubbing its two front paws on the floor. Finally, it agreed. Xia Xian's eyes lit up, and she carefully picked up Bao, walked through the corridor and cave, and arrived at the outdoor area. The sunlight outside was indeed great, and the leaves of the trees were shining brightly from being exposed to the sun. Sitting on a large rock with Bao in her arms, Xia Xian pointed to Pippi and Dodo playing not far away. "Bao, that's Pippi and Dodo. Do you want to play with them?" Bao immediately buried its head in Xia Xian's embrace, clearly refusing. At that moment, the visitors behind the railing were shocked and excited to see Xia Xian holding Bao and bringing it to the outdoor area. They whispered in low voices. Chapter 26. Walking out of the shadow. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bao actually came out. I thought he wouldn't come to the outer field anymore. It must have been brought out by the lady caretaker. It still looks very timid and is unwilling to come down and walk around. Bao must have been scared out of his wits by what happened last time. I heard that the zoo is preparing to set up a blacklist system. If anyone dares to hurt animals in the zoo again, they will be permanently blacklisted. Sigh, I hope Bao can quickly walk out of the shadows and become a happy panda like Pippi and Dodo. Keep your voices down. Xia Xian just posted a new video yesterday, reminding tourists not to make too much noise when watching animals to avoid causing a bad influence on the animals. Although the visitors were very emotional, everyone tried to speak as softly as possible. No one shouted when they saw a panda like before. For the next few days, as long as the weather was clear, Xia Xian would carry Bao out to bask in the sun and chat with him. Most of the time, Bao would not respond to Xia Xian, but Xia Xian knew that Bao would listen to every word she said. Xia Xian could also feel that Bao's mental state was much better than the first day he came out. In the past few days, Pippi and Dodo had only watched Xia Xian holding Bao in the sun from afar. The two pandas' eyes revealed envy because they had never been coaxed by Xia Xian into her arms. However, both Pippi and Dodo knew that Bao had met with an accident some time ago, so they did not mind that Bao had received extra attention and love from Xia Xian. Today, after Pippi and Dodo rolled a few rounds on the grass, they slowly walked towards Xia Xian. Seeing Pippi and Dodo approaching, Bao suddenly tensed up and Xia Xian caressed its body, comforting its emotions. Fortunately, Pippi and Dodo stopped a few meters away. Then, one of the two pandas lay down and the other sat down to scratch the itch. Xia Xian guessed that Pippi and Dodo were also concerned about Bao, but Bao had been too introverted and never communicated with any pandas, so naturally, Pippi and Dodo had no chance to get close to him. Xia Xian's heart skipped a beat. She stood up, carried Bao to the lawn beside Pippi and Dodo, and sat down beside Dodo. Dodo turned his head and looked at Bao, who was in Xia Xian's arms. After a few seconds, he moved his round and fat head over, as if he was sniffing Bao's scent, and then gently rubbed Bao with his nose. At first, Bao was very nervous and scared, but under Xia Xian's comfort, he did not have too serious of a stress reaction. After feeling that Dodo did not have any malicious intent towards him, Bao timidly poked his head out of Xia Xian's arms and looked at Dodo for a while. The situation seemed to have changed since that day. The next day, Xia Xian tried to put Bao on the lawn. Bao did not resist leaving her arms anymore and instead crawled 2 steps forward. Xia Xian gave Bao's old ball to it and deliberately fed the 3 pandas at the same time. Xia Xian wanted to slowly let Bao know one thing. It was indeed a disabled panda, but like other pandas, it had the right to bask in the sun, roll on the grass, and eat the small apples given by the caretaker. The netizens also noticed the change in Bao. Bao was actually willing to play with Pippi and Dodo. Moreover, Bao, who used to stay in the corner for an entire day, now ran to the bottom of the climbing frame and tried to climb up the wooden frame with his 2 front claws. Although it failed again and again, Bao did not give up. He got up and continued to practice. Beside Bao, Pippi had been watching it patiently. It would hold it when it was about to fall or show it how to climb up. Some netizens posted the video of Bao trying to climb on the internet, and the popularity quickly rose to the hot search list. When the netizens saw it, they were deeply moved. Wow, Bao is awesome. He really walked out of the shadows. A disabled panda like Bao deserves to be loved. I hope everyone can pay more attention to them. The lady caretaker is really an angel. She was the one who brought Bao out of the shadows bit by bit. She was the one who encouraged Bao to make friends with Pippi Dodo. I really cried when I saw her. Along with Bao's transformation, Xia Xian's care and gentleness in taking care of Bao also made more and more netizens like her. The number of fans on her video app's homepage quickly exceeded 280,000, and the number of likes and comments on each video was comparable to that of a popular celebrity. Chapter 27. Koala. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At the Phoenix Town Entertainment production base near the capital city, the actors had finished their day's work. Jing Yamo took off his actor's outfit and sat in the minivan. Before Jing Yamo could catch his breath, Sun Hu called, "I'll be there in a moment. First, repost the brand's post on your Weibo. Oh, by the way, today is the birthday of a senior in the industry. Go to the comments section and wish him a happy birthday." Jing Yamo hung up the phone and followed Sun Hu's instructions to complete the tasks. After that, Jing Yamo planned to turn off his phone but unexpectedly saw a Weibo notification on his homepage. The angelic caretaker inspires Bao to emerge from the shadows. It's so touching. The Weibo post had a picture of a young girl in work clothes holding a panda. The girl was slightly bowing her head, seemingly talking to the panda, while the panda raised its head to look at her. This beautiful scene was like a scene from a fairy tale, and everyone who saw it could feel the quiet flow of trust between humans and animals. Jing Yamo quietly gazed at the picture. He immediately recognized the girl in the picture as the stray dog owner he had met at the pet store that day. I didn't expect her to be a panda caretaker. Jing Yamo thought. After Bao's condition stabilized, Xia Xian did not need to worry too much about him. She had the idea of going to other animal exhibits to interact with more animals. To upgrade her beast mastery to level 2, Xia Xian needed to gain the favor of various animals. For her, who possessed the beast language system, the task was not difficult, but it was still somewhat troublesome. Xia Xian quickly went to find Lu Yuan and asked him if she could visit other animal exhibits in the afternoons to interact with other small animals. Lu Yuan knew that Xia Xian was a person who loved animals, so he was not surprised by her request. After pondering for a moment, Lu Yuan nodded and said, "All right, the new media publicity department has a vacancy, so I'll place you there. This way, you'll have a legitimate reason to visit other animal exhibits." Xia Xian smiled happily and said, "Thank you, Mr. Lu." That afternoon, Xia Xian received a camera from the new media publicity department and openly entered other animal exhibits. Using the excuse of shooting promotional videos, Xia Xian had the opportunity to interact closely with other animals. She even had the chance to feed fierce animals like the leopards under the guidance of the staff. When Xia Xian went to the koala exhibit, the staff were preparing to weigh the koalas. Seeing Xia Xian's interested expression as she looked at the koalas hanging from the trees, they invited her to come and hold one of the koalas to weigh it. "Koalas move slowly, so you can't rush them," said the staff member who demonstrated how to coax the koala down from the tree. Xia Xian followed the staff member's example and patted the tree where one of the koalas was hanging. The koala lazily moved its paws, then its plump body slowly twisted as it climbed down. As the staff member said, the koala's descent was indeed slow, and it even paused on the tree trunk for a while, as if contemplating why it was coming down. At that moment, Xia Xian patted the koala's plump bottom, urging it to come down. Having only seen koalas in cartoons and nature documentaries before, Xia Xian now had the chance to touch a koala in person. She found its fluffy bottom adorable and felt incredibly satisfied. After the koala climbed down, Xia Xian held it in her arms like a baby and transferred it to another hanging branch. The hanging branch had a scale, and with the koala hanging from it, Xia Xian and the staff member read the displayed weight. In this way, the task of weighing the koalas was completed. The chubby koala hung from the branch, and when the staff member recorded the weight, it remained obediently still. Xia Xian could not help but rub its head affectionately, saying with a smile, "You're such a super obedient little koala baby." During the interaction, several female visitors standing outside the glass window held their phones and captured the process of Xia Xian weighing the koala. Seeing the slow and cute actions of the koala, the girls could not help but exclaim in excitement, "It's so adorable." Chapter 28. Increase in stats. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the following days, Xia Xian wandered around various enclosures at the zoo. At first, the staff in other enclosures were surprised by her presence, but later on, they ignored her and let her take photos of the animals or even touch and feed them. What surprised the other zoo employees the most was that no matter how aggressive and disobedient the animals usually were, they would become gentle and friendly when they saw Xia Xian. It seemed like all the animals had lost their aggressiveness toward humans in her presence. Because Xia Xian often appeared in other enclosures, many visitors would also take photos of Xia Xian when she and the other caretakers took videos of animals. Hence, the netizens saw the following scenes. The giraffe plucked a red and big fruit from the tree, bit it, and handed it to Xia Xian, as if saying, "Here, eat it." The dolphins in the aquarium floated up and down in front of Xia Xian, showing an extremely enthusiastic smile. The cute little sea otters took out all kinds of treasures hidden in their armpits and gave them to Xia Xian. In front of Xia Xian, all the animals did not seem to have any aggression and were extremely friendly to humans. Netizens could see the harmony and friendship between humans and animals from Xia Xian and the small animals. For young people living under great pressure in modern society, the videos of Xia Xian interacting with the animals appeared relaxed and beautiful. They gradually fell in love with watching Xia Xian's interactions with the animals, feeling a magical stress relief from the videos. In just over half a month, Xia Xian's fan base on the streaming platform had reached 470,000. For an ordinary person, gaining so many followers in less than a month was incredible. Netizens gave Xia Xian affectionate nicknames like Elf Princess and Little Sunshine. The high-intensity interaction with various animals every day also rapidly increased the animal affinity points in the beast language system. Xia Xian's stamina point quickly rose from 71 to 80. She could only allocate the remaining points to her appearance and charisma. The basic stats panel was soon updated. Host: Xia Xian. Age: 21. Stamina: 80. Appearance: 80. Charisma: 80. Beast Mastery: Newbie. After reaching 80 points in all basic stats, Xia Xian could continue to increase them further by earning 1000 animal affinity points. After Xia Xian's appearance and charisma both reached 80 points, she could feel a noticeable change in herself. Her originally fair skin became even smoother and more delicate, almost like that of a newborn baby. Her facial features became more exquisite and radiant. The increase in charisma made Xia Xian's aura even more charming, though she did not feel it herself. However, she noticed that the attention from the opposite sex seemed to be growing. Tang Hai's attitude towards Xia Xian became even warmer, and he had asked her out for dinner and a movie several times, all of which she had refused. Xia Xian felt somewhat uneasy. She did not want to increase her appearance and charisma, she just wanted to live as an ordinary person after being reborn. Xia Xian had also asked the system if she could maintain her current stats, but the system said that if the basic stats did not improve, it would have an impact on the subsequent upgrades in Beast Mastery. The system did not explicitly explain the specific impact, but Xia Xian vaguely guessed the connection between the two. She had no choice but to accept the setting from the system. Since Xia Xian could not maintain a low profile, she tried to calm her mind and stop worrying about it. After all, there were many beautiful women in this world, and nothing wrong with it. Xia Xian smiled helplessly. She found her current thoughts somewhat strange. Most people would hope to become more beautiful, but she wanted to be more ordinary. Xia Xian estimated the time. At the current rate, she could meet the requirements for advancing her beast mastery to level 2, Beast Tamer, next month. She wondered what changes this ability upgrade would bring. "Miss, we've arrived." The taxi driver's voice interrupted Xia Xian's thoughts, and she paid by scanning the QR code before getting out of the car. A colleague had resigned, so everyone gathered for a farewell dinner after work. As the next day was Saturday, they continued to a karaoke bar after dinner, and Xia Xian joined them. After leaving the karaoke bar, it was already quite late. Xia Xian shared a car with a female colleague, and they arrived at the residential area. Xia Xian checked her phone and saw that it was already past 10 p.m. Chapter 29. Discussed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xia Xian got out of the car, walking towards the north gate of the residential area. The south gate usually closed around 10 o'clock, but the north gate remained open 24 hours a day. Under the bright streetlights, Xia Xian noticed her shadow, but suddenly another shadow appeared beside hers. Xia Xian became instantly alert, turning her head, and saw Zhang Liang's face. Xia Xian took 2 steps back, shocked, and asked, "Why are you here?" Zhang Liang looked at Xia Xian, and after only a few days, he was not sure if it was his imagination, but Xia Xian seemed even more beautiful. She exuded a captivating charm that intertwined between a young girl and a woman, a purity with a hint of allure. In the eyes of the men, Xia Xian seemed to be standing there, enticing them without doing anything. Xia Xian felt uneasy about Zhang Liang's increasingly profound and eerie gaze. She quickly glanced around her. There was no one around, and the security guard's office at the main gate was dark, with no sign of any guards. Seeing Xia Xian's guarded expression, Zhang Liang sighed, "Xian, what are you afraid of? Do you think I would harm you?" Xia Xian had intended to question Zhang Liang angrily, but she did not want to provoke him, so she suppressed her anger and coldly said, "What do you want? Did you find out my address and wait here for me? Don't you find your behavior disgusting?" Zhang Liang's eyes showed a trace of sadness. "Disgusting? Is that how you see me? I just want to see you. If I didn't do this, would you be willing to meet me? L.C. I don't want to see you. Can you leave me alone and spare yourself the trouble?" Xia Xian spoke while thinking about how to break free from this situation. Zhang Liang sighed again, looking forlorn with a bitter smile. He said, "If I could control myself, my obsession with you wouldn't have lasted for so many years." Xian, when you love someone, you can't control yourself. Hearing that made Xia Xian feel like vomiting. She thought, love. He thought what he had done to me was love. When they were in college, Zhang Liang courted Xia Xian, but after being rejected, he falsely believed that she was playing hard to get. He even spread rumors within the student council, claiming that they were already together. When Xia Xian found out about that, she was furious. She clarified their relationship on the campus's website, but no one believed her. They thought she and Zhang Liang were deeply in love and just having a lover's quarrel. Since then, Xia Xian had detested Zhang Liang. Seeing Xia Xian's silence, Zhang Liang took 2 steps forward and looked at her affectionately. "Xian, why won't you give me a chance? If you're not satisfied with anything about me, I can change. By the way, now that you're famous, do you have many suitors? Do you already have a boyfriend?" As Zhang Liang spoke, his tone turned into an interrogation, as if Xia Xian having a boyfriend would be a betrayal to him. Xia Xian finally could not bear it anymore. She said, "What does it have to do with you? We're not even friends. Zhang Liang, how many times do I have to tell you? I don't like you at all. I really can't stand you." It was as if Zhang Liang hadn't heard what Xia Xian said, and he asked again, "Tell me, do you have a boyfriend?" Zhang Liang looked at Xia Xian, who was radiant and beautiful, and the more he thought about it, the more he believed that Xia Xian might have already started dating someone else and that she would not treat him with such an attitude. It must be. Zhang Liang thought. Seeing Zhang Liang's eyes quickly turn dark and even reveal a hint of madness, a warning bell rang in Xia Xian's heart. She wanted to retreat, but Zhang Liang quickly reached out and grabbed her wrist. "What are you doing?" Xia Xian asked and struggled, but she was, after all, a woman, and Zhang Liang often exercised at the gym, making him much stronger. She could not break free. Zhang Liang's other hand wrapped around her shoulder, pulling Xia Xian closer to his car parked by the side of the road. "Let's talk in my car. I want to know if you've been touched by another man." Panicked, Xia Xian wanted to call for help, but after a short plea for help, Zhang Liang covered her mouth with his hand. He said, "Shut up." Xia Xian struggled desperately, but she could not free herself. She was getting closer and closer to Zhang Liang's car. "If I got into Zhang Liang's car, who knows what he would do to me in his current mental state?" Xia Xian thought as she felt angry, anxious, and desperate. Chapter 30. Help. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhang Liang opened the car door, feeling Xia Xian struggling in his arms. Anger and desire burned inside him, and he wished he could have her right there in the car. Zhang Liang thought he had been too considerate of Xia Xian's feelings before. If he had made her his woman earlier, maybe she would not be so disobedient and rebellious now. Women were so cheap. When I tried to reason with them, they wouldn't listen. I had to be forceful, and only then would they submit. Zhang Liang thought. Zhang Liang opened the car door, intending to push the struggling Xia Xian inside. Suddenly, a deep growl echoed in the quiet air. Zhang Liang was taken aback, and he immediately saw a huge figure charging toward him. Zhang Liang felt a tearing pain in his calf as he screamed in agony, letting go of Xia Xian's hands. He fell to the ground, clutching his injured leg. Xia Xian was in a daze, staring at the red-eyed husky. "Bobo." Xia Xian thought. After attacking Zhang Liang, Bobo's wild instincts were triggered. It had originally wanted to continue biting Zhang Liang, but it heard a man's command in the air, "Come back." Xia Xian turned her head and saw a man wearing thin dark gray sportswear and a mask on his face. "Is that Jing Yimo?" Xia Xian wondered. Xia Xian saw Jing Yimo walking toward her, and he grabbed her arm, pulling her gently behind him. Jing Yimo looked at the writhing Zhang Liang on the ground and asked Xia Xian, "Did you know this guy?" Xia Xian hesitated for a moment, opened her mouth, and found her voice again. She said, "I have nothing to do with him." Jing Mo's voice was muffled by the mask, sounding low and dull. Xia Xian noticed Jing Mo taking out his phone and making a call. He quickly reported the location, and soon 2 security guards in uniform ran over. During that time, Bobo stood in front of Xia Xian and Jing Mo, ready to protect them from any harm that might come from the injured Zhang Liang. The 2 security guards who arrived seemed to be security guards from Jing Mo's residential area. They were exceptionally respectful towards him. Jing Mo briefly explained the situation and asked them to call the police to handle the matter. The security guards dragged Zhang Liang up from the ground. Xia Xian then noticed that Bobo's bite was deep, and a pool of blood had formed on the ground, looking quite terrifying. Jing Mo moved in front of Xia Xian, blocking her view of the blood. He then looked towards the nearby residential area. "Do you live here?" Xia Xian nodded. I'll take you back. Jing Mo's voice was steady, without any emotions. Xia Xian was indeed feeling weak in the legs and lacked a sense of security, so she did not argue with Jing Mo. Holding the dog leash, Jing Mo, Xia Xian, and Bobo walked towards Xia Xian's residential area. Bobo's behavior seemed a bit unusual as it kept looking up at Xia Xian with a silly smile on its face. Its smile seemed to reveal a hint of anticipation. Moreover, Bobo seemed to have forgotten that its owner was Jing Mo. It constantly leaned towards the direction where Xia Xian was and occasionally approached her, rubbing against her trouser legs. Looking at Bobo's expectant eyes, Xia Xian seemed to understand what was on its mind. She smiled gently and reached out to pat Bobo's furry head. Bobo, thank you for earlier. After that, Xia Xian looked up and saw Jing Mo. She did not forget to thank Bobo's owner too. Mr. Jing, thank you. Xia Xian did not hide the fact that she recognized Jing Mo previously. In the pet store, Jing Mo had taken off his mask after entering the washroom. His face, which had become famous nationwide, was hardly unknown to anyone. Jing Mo seemed a little unaccustomed to Xia Xian's direct gaze. He turned his head slightly, remained silent for a couple of seconds, and then asked, "Do you want to move out?" Xia Xian slowly shook her head. "No, I've already paid 4 months of rent." Xia Xian had just started working, and 4 months' worth of rent in the capital was not a small sum. Moreover, Xia Xian did not think moving out would help. Zhang Liang knew that she worked at the zoo and had detailed information about her family. It would not be difficult for him to find out where she moved. Taking a deep breath, Xia Xian showed a soothing smile to Jing Mo and said, "Don't worry too much about me. I only come back this late occasionally. Usually, I finish work early when there are more people around, and Zhang Liang doesn't dare to do anything."